Hello everybody and welcome to another video. My name is the Goldman and today I will be ranking the 14 main lightsaber fights in the Star Wars saga. Now before I begin my ranking, it's important to note that not every fight that has a lightsaber is included in this list. For example, Finn fighting the traitor guy or Qui-Gon vs Maul on Tatooine are not included in this list. Also, the Vader hallway scene in Rogue One is not in this list as well, because that to me is more of a massacre than it is a fight. I'm just going to talk about the 14 main fights that are significant to the films and last quite a decent amount of time. So without further ado, let's get started. In last place, we have Obi-Wan Kenobi versus General Grievous in Revenge of the Sith. This decision was not hard for me at all. I am not a fan of this whole scene anyway on Utapau, so the lightsaber fight itself was bound to be one I didn't enjoy. Also, General Grievous is my least favorite character in Star Wars. I just hate the concept of a cyborg fighting with 4 lightsabers. It just bugs me so much because realistically, Obi-Wan should be dead in an instant. There is no convincing me that a cyborg with 4 lightsabers wouldn't win this fight. The only good thing about this fight for me is hello there. But if the most memorable thing about a fight is a meme, then I think it's a pretty poor fight. At number 13, we have Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, and Master Yoda versus Count Dooku in Attack of the Clones. This and the previous fight between Obi-Wan and Grievous are probably the only 2 fights I simply just do not like. I feel like the scene has no emotional weight to it. I really don't like the line where Obi-Wan says, "You go in slowly on the left." It just seemed like it was a way to get Obi-Wan and Dooku one-on-one. Also, seeing Obi-Wan get cut twice and defeated that easily is just really lame. Kylo Ren got hit in his shoulder and he was fine. I think the filmmaking of Anakin and Dooku is atrocious. You literally cannot see anything, and seeing Yoda fight is just so weird to me. Call me an OT purist all you want, but I don't like seeing Yoda lightsaber fight. I just find this fight to be completely forgettable. At number 12, we have Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker versus Count Dooku in Revenge of the Sith. This fight is very brief, so there isn't much to say. Again, for me the most memorable thing about this fight are the numerous memes. I do like the part where Anakin goes one-on-one against Dooku and how Palpatine manipulated Anakin to kill Dooku. I always felt that Anakin defeating Dooku was a little too easy. Dooku was the main villain in Attack of the Clones and he's a Sith Lord, and I just don't think he should have been killed that easily. But this is a harmless fight that I just forget about quite often. At number 11, we have Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Vader in A New Hope. Even though this movie is one of the greatest ever, the lightsaber fight doesn't really hold up. I get that it was the first fight, but I still don't feel the emotional weight like I did in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Also, the Vader hallway scene kind of ruined this fight for me. Seeing him go from this to this is just so amusing. I don't know why, but this fight is just so meh. I like the Obi-Wan sacrifice, but that's pretty much it. This fight really didn't have to do much, but I wish it did a little bit more regardless. At number 10, we have Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace. Now this is easily my hottest take on this list, but I just don't find this fight to be that enjoyable anymore. The only good things I can say about this fight are that it's really cool, and that the music is great. I like my fights to be very personal and to have high emotional stakes. I believe this is the only fight on this list where no words are spoken. I mean, Obi-Wan yells no, yes, but that's pretty much it. I've seen this fight so many times that it just doesn't impress me anymore. I wish I liked this fight just as much as other people do. I just don't. At number 9, we have Mace Windu versus Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith. Obviously, this is another fight that begins with a classic meme, but I do find it really enjoyable. I really don't like the way the other 3 Jedi died in the beginning. I think that could have been filmed way better. Palpatine making all these silly faces while fighting is also just kind of funny, to be honest. But I think the best part of this fight is when Palpatine loses his lightsaber and Anakin shows up. When Anakin does show up, I really like this scene. You might not count this as part of the fight, but I do. Mace Windu is deflecting Palpatine's lightning, so they are technically fighting. Also, anything Palpatine in this movie is great, so I do have an appreciation for this scene. At number 8, we have Yoda versus Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith. Seeing the 2 masters of both sides of the Force fight is just really cool. My favorite part of the fight is when Palpatine is just throwing Senate seats at Yoda. I just love Palpatine and how evil he is. It makes it so enjoyable to watch. I don't really have any negatives with this fight, but at the same time, I don't have any extreme positives either. I do like the little bits of dialogue between Yoda and Palpatine. It does make it seem like this is the fight of fights. But overall, my meh feeling about it is why it rests in the middle of my list. At number 7, we have Rey vs. Kylo Ren in The Rise of Skywalker. From here on out, these are fights I really do enjoy watching. I really like the emotion behind this fight as well. Seeing Rey angry the whole fight with Kylo being calm and collected is a really nice twist. The brief exchange they have before the fight is one of my favorites as well. I love when Kylo Ren says "I can't" when he's talking about going back to Leia. It really shows that he can be redeemed to me. I really like the location of the Death Star too as well. I really do think it's a unique location that we really haven't seen in Star Wars with the waves and such. Seeing Rey actually wielding a lightsaber properly compared to The Force Awakens was really refreshing. The only issue I have with this fight is the lack of music. I get what they were going for, and I love the sound effects of the waves of the water. I just think a nice soundtrack would have taken this fight to the next level. But overall, I really like this fight, and I love the characters even more. At number 6, we have Anakin vs. Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith. I actually used to not like this fight because of how over the top it is, but over time with me getting older and with the brilliance of the Clone Wars, it's kinda growing on me. Since I am so invested with these characters because of all the lore I've consumed, seeing this fight is rather emotional now. Also, the Battle of the Heroes is one of my favorite soundtracks, so that does always help. I think it's okay that Star Wars has one super over-the-top ridiculous fight, so that's why it doesn't bother me that much anymore. There could still be more emotion behind this fight, but that doesn't detract from me liking it anymore. At number 5, we have Rey and Finn vs. Kylo in The Force Awakens. I love this fight so much. I will never forget how I felt when I saw Rey take the lightsaber for the first time. That was a super goosebumps moment for me. I also love how Kylo is just easily in control of the fight up until the point where Rey taps into the Force. I know this fight is overly criticized because apparently Rey shouldn't have been able to beat him, but I made a whole video on that, so go watch it if you're interested. The music during this fight is great. I love how the lightsabers actually have weight to them unlike the prequels, and the visuals at the end when Rey finally beats Kylo is perfect. This fight will always have a special place in my heart, and that's why I love it so much. At number 4, we have Rey and Kylo Ren versus the Praetorian Guards from The Last Jedi. Now, I know some people don't consider this a lightsaber fight because technically two lightsabers never clash, but in my book it is. I love the entire throne room scene. I will never forget how shocked I was when Snoke was killed. Also, the cinematography of this fight is maybe the best in the saga. I know there's some silly things with the choreography when you really look into detail, but honestly I can look past that. Something about the chemistry between Rey and Kylo really sells me on their bond. Also, Kylo is extremely underrated. Rey has trouble taking on one of the guards and Kylo's able to take 3 at once. Just everything about this scene is so great to me. However, there are a few fights I like a little bit more. At number 3, we have Kylo Ren versus Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. Honestly, my favorite thing about this fight is that it really isn't a fight. The idea of Luke stalling Kylo to help save the Resistance is genius. Also, Luke saving his friends without killing or harming a single person besides himself in a pure act of defense is the most Jedi thing anyone has done in the history of Star Wars. This is one of the few scenes that I'm pretty sure I can recite perfectly, just to flex a little bit. The conversation between Luke and Kylo is so personal, and I love how Luke's final lines make his arc in this movie come full circle. Also, just like everything in this movie, the visuals are amazing. This is easily a fight I can watch over and over again and never get bored. At number 2, we have Luke versus Vader in The Empire Strikes Back. One of my favorite aspects of this fight is that it's a true confrontation. This scene isn't worried about wowing the audience with its intense choreography or its intense music. Just two men really meeting each other for the first time and how they would both react in this situation. Vader is obviously testing Luke, wanting to see what his son is really like. Luke came into this fight with all the confidence in the world and he got his ass handed to him. This fight is so personal between the two, and I love that. Also, just like the previous fights I mentioned, the visuals and the tone of this fight is perfect. This fight was so close to being number 1, but this next fight just barely beat this one out. And lastly, at the top spot is Luke versus Vader in Return of the Jedi. I believe I've gone on record saying that this is my favorite scene in all of Star Wars. We know what's at stake here. Will Luke redeem his father, or will he turn to the dark side? The overshadowing presence of the Emperor makes this fight that much more layered. I love how this fight isn't as long as the previous one, but it's short and it's passionate. I love the rage that Luke embraces until he realizes that he will put down his weapon and not embrace the dark side. Also, the act of Vader finally redeeming himself and saving his son is perfect. Vader's last conversation with Luke where he repeats, "You were right about me," will always be the most emotional moment in the franchise for me. I don't think I would trade this fight for anything. And that is my ranking of the 14 main lightsaber fights in the Star Wars saga. Thank you for watching another one of my videos. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and follow me on Twitter at thegoldman25. I would really appreciate it. I hope everyone enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to unite the Claude Squad, and I'll see you guys next time.